Welcome back everyone to another video in our series on making 2D games in Unity. We are going to today be looking at how to mix together some of the different AI behaviors that we've been working on in the last several videos. So here's an example that I've worked up. This is what we're going to build today. When we play this, the enemy spider up there, he starts in his patrol mode. He's going to keep patrolling until he gets close enough to the player to be aware of the player. So he's got an awareness range. So let's see if we can get him to be aware. And let's walk up behind him. Okay, so he has now seen me. He's attempting to turn towards me, and then he will shoot me with his web. There we go. So if I get outside of his awareness range, then he goes back to patrolling. Otherwise, he'll chase me until he's close enough to shoot that web, and then he'll stop and shoot. Okay, this can also work with melee as well, for he comes right up to me until I'm within his melee range, and he can also attack me there. So that's the type of more complex AI behavior, artificial intelligence, our enemy's going to have, where he actually can switch between different AI states. So we're just going to modify what we already have in our Spider AI script, rearrange things a little bit, and we'll be able to reuse pretty much everything that we've done up to this point. So once you kind of build the individual behaviors, it's pretty easy to mix them together and switch in between them. So here we are back in our Spider AI script, and there's just a few things we're going to change here. First thing we have to do is just think about how we want this all to work. So I've got all the code that I've typed in into the script here. A lot of it's commented out. We have our patrolling code right here. We have our chasing code here, our attack melee, and our attacking range. So we're going to actually make use of all of these and mix them together here. So there's a few things we need to do. First of all, we need to give our spider an overall awareness range. So at what point, how far away from the player, or how close to the player does he have to be before he's aware of the player? Because if he's not aware of the player, then he's patrolling and looking for the player. So I'm going to add a new variable up here that is for his awareness range. So I'll just add it down here at the bottom of our list of variables here. Let's make a public float, and we'll call this awareness range. Okay, so this is the how close he has to be before he's aware of the player. And if he's aware of the player, then he's going to start trying to chase the player in order to get in range to attack. So we're going to add that there. We're also going to move where we are figuring out how far we are from the player. So let me see here. We've got this, like down here, we've got this float distance to target. We're using that in a lot of different places, and currently we've been just doing that every frame in the update function, just redeclaring it. Well, we're going to want to actually have this be a script level variable. So I'm going to copy this out of here, and I'm going to make that variable up here on top. So I'm going to make this a public float distance to target. If we put it up here at the top, then any function inside of our script can access it. And that's what I want, because we're actually going to break some of this code out of the update function and put them into their own functions. So we need these two new variables right here to help us to mix these different things together. Alright, now that we have those variables there, what we're going to do is start with patrolling. And so we're going to need to do a check here, first of all, to see if we're close enough to the player to actually be aware of him. So first thing we have to do is know how far away we are from the player. So we're going to do, we're going to check the distance to the player. We're going to get that every frame, and we're going to say distance to target equals, and this is where we're going to just do what we were doing several times here before. We're going to use this vector 3 distance. So I'm actually just going to copy that since we've already got it there and paste it in. Alright, so every frame I'm going to start my update by getting the current distance to the target using vector 3 distance, spider's position, and the target's position, getting that distance. Once I have that, then I can use that to power what we want to do next here. Okay, so then we're going to check to see if the enemy is aware of the player. So is he within that awareness range? So we're going to do an if statement here. We're going to say if distance to target is greater than our awareness range. Okay. So basically we're saying, are we aware? If we're not aware, right? If distance to target's bigger than this awareness range, then we're not aware of the player. So we're going to say if not, then patrol. So we want to patrol if we're not aware of the target. So here then we're going to patrol. Alright, now we could just move all this patrol code right here in this if statement, but if you notice, this update function has gotten really long. So a lot of times, especially if it's different specific code that's not all going to run every frame, it's a good idea to break this out into some functions. So I'm going to make a patrol function down here at the bottom to put some of that in. So here's where my update ends. So I'm going to do a void patrol function. And I'm going to move all my code for patrolling down into it. So my patrolling starts right here, where we move the player, we check to see if we reach the patrol point, you know, all of that. We're turning the face to patrol point. That goes down to here. Okay? So I'm just actually going to come in here and copy out all this patrol code. So I'm going to cut it actually. I'm just going to cut it right out of there. And I'm going to paste it down here. Alright, and then we'll just have to double check that we have to check our brackets and everything. So up here we're going to patrol. I'm going to get rid of that block comment start point there. So we just got to kind of clean up after ourselves as we go through. And I got to get rid of this one here. Alright, so let's double check this. So here's where patrol starts and finishes. So whenever you move code around, you just want to go back through it because it's easy to miss something. So again, if we're patrolling, we're going to go ahead and move. We're going to check our distance to our next patrol point, see if we've reached it. If we have, we're going to figure out which patrol point to load next and load that in. Then we're going to make sure we're facing the patrol point and rotating towards it so that we can continue moving in its direction. So this should get us working with the patrol. Alright, so right now we should be able to patrol, and our update function, then what I'm going to do here is just call that patrol function now. So I'm just, let's try that again. We're going to call patrol. There we go. So every frame this runs, every frame where my distance to target is greater than my awareness range, I'm going to call patrol. And that'll call this function. So it's really almost like all this code is still in the update function because we're calling it from there, but only when we need it. Okay, so that will get us patrolling again. Okay, so maybe we should just test this out as we go just to see that it's working. So we'll go back out here now. I'm going to turn, I had this practice one turned on here when I was figuring out how to put this all together for you guys. But here's my Spider AI script. Let's make sure that we kind of get this set up as we go. So he's got his patrol points, he's got his speed, and we need to give him an awareness range now. So let's say his awareness range is 4. Okay, 4 units. We actually aren't going to be using chase range anymore because awareness range is kind of becoming our chase range. So anyway, our awareness range, we'll make that 4. So if we're within 4 units of the spider, or if we're not, he should be patrolling. Okay. If we get closer, right now he'll probably just stop. So let's just see if he patrols. There he goes. He's patrolling up here between his different patrol points. And if I walk up here where I'll be close enough to him, see how he stopped? I'm in his awareness range right now. And right now I don't have any instructions for what he should do. But if I walk out of it, he'll go back to patrolling until I get close enough to where he'd be aware of me. Then he stops. So that's the first part. We've got patrolling happening in here again. Alright, so next, if we get close enough where he's aware of us, we want to switch over to where he is trying to chase us down. Okay? So we're going to do next here, we're going to do another check. If the player is within the enemy's awareness range, then we want to switch to chasing him. Then we want to chase. So let's do that check here. So again, we're going to say if. Now this time we want to say if distance to target is less than awareness range. So now we're aware of the player. So now what we want to do is switch to a chasing mode. So here's our chasing AI code. Let's go ahead and move that into its own function. So let's make a function down here for chasing. So I'm just going to add that to the bottom. Void, we'll call this chase. And then what we'll do is we'll go up here and we'll take our chasing AI script here. So all this from here to here is for chasing. So let's cut that out of our update function. Let's paste it down in here. Let's remove the block comment that I was using to keep that all out of there. So here we go. So now we're chasing the player. Now we don't need to get distance to target here as a new thing because we already have that up at the top. We don't need to check to see if we're within chase range because we've already done that up there. So we can get rid of that check. See, because we're already doing it up here. We're already checking if we're less than that awareness range. We already know we want to chase. We don't have to check independently here. We're going to start chasing. We're going to get the direction that the player is from us, figure out that angle, rotate towards it, and move towards it. Okay? So again, we got to check all our brackets because I've been deleting things out. So this one and this one go together. This is an extra one, so let's remove it. You can actually back that up so it lines up. And actually all these lines of code we can back up too, just to make them line up where they're supposed to. Okay, so now chasing is here. So what will happen now is if we get within the awareness range, we will stop patrolling and we will start chasing. That's being controlled up here by our if statements. If we're greater than our awareness range, we patrol. If we're less than our awareness range, we chase. So it's called chase right here. And that will cause the chase function to run. So let's test this out now. Go back out into Unity. And we'll play. So he should start patrolling. So you can see in the scene view there, the spider is patrolling. If I get close enough to him that he's aware of me, he immediately starts to chase me. And he will go and just sit right on top of me here and spin all crazy because he got close enough. If I get out of his range, let's see if I can do it here. So if I can get out of his awareness range, might not be able to the way that, there we go. He went back to patrolling. Okay, so now he's switching between patrolling and chasing based on if we're in his range of awareness or not. So see, now he's back to patrolling. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is put the attack in. So we can do this either with melee or with range. We'll look at melee first. So then what we want to do is if he gets close enough to attack us, we want him to stop moving and go ahead and launch his attack. So back into our code here. We got our attack melee code right here. So let's put in a check for that. So we're going to have to say if distance to target is less than our attack range, then we want to switch to attacking. Now, we're going to have to do something here because distance to target less than awareness range, our awareness range is larger than our attack range. So right now, both chasing and attacking will get called in the same frame. Don't really want that. So there's a couple ways to fix that. What I'm just going to do is add an and here to this conditional statement. So here we'll just say only chase if we're less than awareness range and if distance to target is greater than attack range. So now he's only going to chase if we're less than the awareness range, and greater than attack range. So once we get in attack range, we're going to stop chasing. So that will fix that. Then here we're checking to see if we're less than attack range. Okay, well now this will take over, and we will go ahead and attack the player. So let's make a new function down here for attacking. So a void attack. And let's go ahead and move that melee code in for now. We'll do that first. So here's all my melee code from here to here. Let's cut that out. And let's paste it in down here. We'll get these block comments out. Okay, so we're going to attack melee. Now here again, we don't have to check distance to player because we've already done that. Okay, so we already know he's close enough to attack, so we actually don't need any of these lines. We know he's close enough to attack because we checked that up above. So we can delete those out. We do need to check to see if enough time has passed. E-N-O-U-G-H. If enough time has passed since we last attacked to see if we should attack. And if we have, then we will go ahead and do all this attack stuff that we were doing before. Okay. And then this actually closes our attack function. This would be an extra. This is actually an extra one here, so we just need this one to close our attack, this to close our class. So again, whenever you're moving code around like this, you really got to watch your brackets. It's easy to get them messed up. So you want to go back through and just double check everything. So now, if we're close enough to attack, so up here in our update function, we're saying if we're close enough to attack, then we're going to just call our attack function. And that will go down here and call our little attack code. It'll check to see if we've had enough time between attacks to attack again. It'll send the message to the player to take damage, and it'll record that last attack time so that we can control how often he attacks. Okay, out here in Unity then, before we test it with the melee attack in, we've got to go look at our spider enemy. Let's check to make sure his settings are all still good. So his chase range is 3, his attack range is 5. Let's make that a 1 again because this is a melee attack. And damage 2, attack delay once per second is fine, and awareness range is 4. So he's aware of us at 4. We don't need chase range anymore, actually, and we're not using that, so we'll clear that out. But if we're within 4 units, he's aware of us. He'll chase us. If we get within 1 unit, he will attack us and do 2 damage. So let's just see what happens. So he should start by patrolling. Okay, he's patrolling right now. If I get close enough where he's aware of me, he chases me down, and let's pause this for a second. If I click in on the skeleton, you can see that I'm already down to 8. If I unpause, so now I'm at 6, 4. Okay, so he's been biting me. If I get out of that range, then he, whoops, that's interesting. He passed right through that crate. I might have to check that out. But if I can get out of his range here, he should go back to patrolling. See, now he's back to patrolling. So he is switching between all the states. Now he's coming after me because I got close enough, and again, if I let him get close enough to bite me, he will start taking my health away until I'm dead. Okay? So we have it working with all 3 of those now because of this. Now, if you want to do ranged attacking with this, that also works. Okay? And you could even make it to where if he's within a certain distance to range attack, he range attacks, and if the player runs up on him and gets within a melee range, maybe he's got a powerful or a less powerful melee range, whatever. You could even get more complex with this. Really, you can do whatever you want. But let's just switch this from melee to range. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out all of this. So if you do a /* and then at the bottom of what you're doing a */, that makes a block comment. So that comments out everything in between here and here if you haven't seen that before. So that turns that code off. Then let's go up and grab our ranged attack code. So here's my ranged attack code. Just going to grab all of that and cut that out of my update function. And I can drop that down in here. And then I can take out the block comment beginning and end points for that. And this is checked through this code. So we don't need distance to player. We already know we're going to be within attack range, so we can take that out. We do need to get the direction and do the angles and rotate towards the player. We do need to check to see if it's time to attack. We're going to raycast. See if we hit the target. We'll make our web and fire it. Yeah, so all that should be fine. Again, let's check our brackets. So that goes with that if statement. This one goes with my attack, which means that this one here I don't need. This is the one that's actually kind of lined up with the outside of my function though. So we've got that, and that goes with my class. Again, then I always like to kind of back all this stuff up here so that it lines up where it should. It got indented because of how I brought it over. So let's just move all this back to make sure it's nice and neat. There. Okay, so now if we want to do ranged attacking, we'll do this. All right, now let's save that. Out in Unity then, we're going to want to adjust our attack range on our spider. So let's go to the spider. His attack range is 1 right now, so that's not very long for an attack. So let's make that maybe a 4. And then our awareness range, we should probably make maybe him a little more aware, or we could leave him the same. I mean, as soon as he's aware of us, he attacks, so he won't chase us if we leave these the same. If we want to see the chasing happen, we could put like a 5 on there so that he'll walk up a little bit until he can get to us, and then an attack range of 4. And then, you know, he can go back and forth between the states. So in this little room here, it's going to be hard to get away from him that far. But let's just see what happens now. He should start by patrolling. So there he is patrolling to his different patrol points. And then if I get up here in his awareness range, see how he moved up? See, he'll move up until he gets close enough, then he'll shoot at me. He can't shoot until he's close enough. If I get behind things, you know, he can hide. And if I was able to get far enough away from him again, then he would start patrolling again. Okay, I probably can't get that far away from him right now because of his awareness range being probably about as big as the room. All right, but there you go. You can see that that's working. So again, all we did was just move around some code here, and the main heart of this, how you do this, is you got to think about what the conditions are when you want to switch between behaviors. So kind of the recap, the idea here, in our update function, every frame we're getting the distance, because we're driving all this on distance to the target. Okay, are we close enough? First, we're checking to see, are we even aware of the player at all? If we're not, then we patrol. If in the course of our patrolling we happen to get close enough to where we're aware, but we're not close enough to attack, then we chase. And if we get close enough to attack, then we attack. Okay, and the way this is written, every frame it's checking this, so every frame it can, whichever one of these evaluates to true, it will do. All right, and you have to write these conditions so that only one can be true at a time. If you get 2 of them true at the same time, then you might get some strange behavior there. So that's why you have to think through your logic here and make sure when you write these conditionals that only one of them are going to fire at a time. And this is just one way to do this. There's all sorts of different ways that you can structure enemy AI. And the more complex the behavior you want, you know, the more fancy you have to get with how you set this up. But this is just a simple enemy AI system that allows you to switch between 3 different behaviors. And you could add more to it if you wanted to. You know, kind of the sky is the limit. Your imagination and what you can logically figure out is kind of what you can do. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll slowly through the code here so that you can see it all, so that you don't have to watch through the whole entire video and hope to see it. So here's the top part through the start function. I'm going to scroll down now to update function. So this is the beginning to the end of the update function here. So you can just feel free to pause this wherever you need to get the code. All right, now we're going to go down and look at patrol. So patrol goes from here to here. And then here is chase from here to here. And then attack is the biggest one. So here's attack melee. So remember, if you want melee, you would just uncomment this block. And if you want ranged, you would use this block of code. Here's where the attack function ends, at this bracket, and then there's one more down here for the close of the function. So here's our ranged attacking and the end of our class. And there you go. So you can feel free to mix and match this however you want. This is a bit of a long script, but breaking it up into those little functions really helps us to be organized and just turn different behaviors on and off quite easily. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed this 4 videos on how to do enemy AI. It's a pretty interesting topic and a lot of fun to play with to get your enemies to act a little smarter in your games. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. And thanks for watching.